a multi-billion-dollar marriage shattered by betrayal. The billionaire husband is brought to his knees by public humiliation when his pregnant wife exposes him and his mistress at a corporate gala. Prepare for the untold story of a relationship steeped in luxury and lies. Eliza Marshall believed she had it all. A doting husband, Leo Solis, whose billion-dollar empire spanned continents. A fairy tale wedding that dazzled in luxury magazines, and a life of whims, charity galas, and private jets. But beneath the polished facade lurked betrayal and deceit, culminating in the moment she caught Leo with his mistress, Chloe Vega, in his own corporate fortress. In this dramatic saga of power, obsession, and vengeance, discover how Eliza's rage unleashes a wave of shocking truths, forever altering the destiny of everyone involved. Eliza didn't come from money, but from a young age, she showed a fierce resilience. She grew up in a modest London home, where she learned the value of tenacity and hard work. At 22, she graduated at the top of her class in international business, determined to build her own future. When she landed a coveted scholarship at Solis Global, a multinational conglomerate known for its real estate, technology, and entertainment ventures, she believed it was her door to success. Her first meeting with Leo Solis was a fairy tale. He arrived unannounced at the London office, and everyone scrambled to attend to their young, visionary CEO. Leo, barely 30, had inherited Solis Global from his late father, but had expanded it exponentially with shrewd investments and deft negotiations. His magnetic smile, impeccably tailored suit, and effortless confidence made him the center of attention wherever he went. What started as professional admiration soon blossomed into something more. Leo singled out Eliza for special projects, praising her diligence. Late-night brainstorming sessions turned into intimate conversations. Within months, he invited her to an exclusive business summit in Paris, and on a starlit night on the deck of a yacht, he proposed. She accepted, her heart pounding. From the moment Eliza accepted Leo's proposal, she was swept into a whirlwind of opulence. Their engagement was front-page news, and tabloids dubbed them the new power couple. Leo's proposal came with a 7-carat diamond ring, a Solis family heirloom that once belonged to his grandmother. The wedding was a spectacle, an extravagant ceremony on Lake Como, with live orchestras, floating lanterns, and international dignitaries. Eliza found herself at charity galas, board meetings, and private soirees attended by politicians, celebrities, and the global elite. She adapted quickly to a life that included traveling on private jets, wearing haute couture gowns, and dining at Michelin-starred restaurants. Though initially overwhelmed, Eliza discovered she possessed a natural grace for organizing philanthropic events and representing Solis Global as its elegant first lady. Behind the glamorous facade, Leo's hunger for expansion never diminished. Some marveled at how he balanced business with an active social life. Others, however, warned Eliza that he often lived life in the fast lane, but she was too captivated to notice potential red flags. After all, he was kind, charming, and lauded for his devotion. If he disappeared for a last-minute deal or flew to Tokyo on a whim, she trusted. It was just business. The first sign that not all was well came in the form of whispers at a Solis Global cocktail party. With her champagne flute in hand, Eliza overheard 2 junior employees talking about a secret rumor concerning Leo's late-night activities at the office. She approached them only to see their startled expressions and abrupt silence. Though they politely brushed aside her concern, her intuition was sparked. Around the same time, Leo's old friend, a financial tycoon in his own right, Andrew Collins, approached her during a gala. They talked business. Then Andrew lowered his voice, an air of warning in his tone. "Leo has changed," he said. "He's always been ruthless in business, but lately it's different. Just keep your eyes open, Eliza." That night, she reflected on Andrew's cryptic comment. Leo's ambitious nature was part of what she loved about him, but as the weeks went by, he became more reserved. He took hushed phone calls in corners of their penthouse, claiming they were delicate negotiations. He went to business dinners she wasn't invited to, and though he maintained a polished exterior, a flicker of unease flashed in his eyes whenever she asked too many questions. Eliza first heard the name Chloe Vega during a corporate lunch at the Solace Tower. She was speaking with David Yates, the head of human resources, when he casually mentioned that Chloe Vega was quickly becoming one of the company's greatest assets. "She's practically a magician at corporate strategy," David explained. "Leo has entrusted her with major expansions in Asia and the Middle East." A silent unease settled over Eliza. It wasn't that Leo never worked closely with female executives. He prided himself on diversity at Solace Global. But there was something in David's tone, a strange mixture of admiration and wariness that piqued her curiosity. That afternoon, she tried to meet Chloe Vega, to see for herself what made the woman so exceptional. Chloe was out of the office, ironically, traveling on business with Leo. According to the assistant's brief explanation, Eliza forced a smile, but her heart pounded. She remembered the nights Leo claimed to be traveling alone on urgent business. Could Chloe have been with him? Her instincts flared, though she tried to suppress them. After all, this was Solace Global. People traveled on business all the time. Still, Eliza couldn't shake the feeling that she had to keep her ears open. What would you have done if you were Eliza? Would you have confronted your husband directly, or tried to find out the truth on your own? The unraveling. It wasn't long before Eliza's suspicions took root. At a charity event for a children's hospital, she found herself standing next to Leo, greeting donors and taking photos. Across the ballroom, she noticed a remarkably beautiful woman, with dark hair swept up in a sleek bun, wearing a crimson evening gown. She glanced at Leo, whose normally serene expression shifted with what appeared to be recognition, perhaps even alarm, when he saw the same woman. Eliza excused herself and slipped through the crowd to investigate. As she circled the room, she caught glimpses of the woman exchanging knowing smiles with Leo from across the way. Their covert glances were obvious to a wife whose senses had been sharpened by doubt. Finally, Eliza mustered the courage to approach. "You must be Mrs. Solis," the woman said sweetly, extending a hand. "I'm Chloe Vega. We haven't officially met, but I'm on the global expansions team at Solace Global." Eliza forced her kindest smile as her gut churned. Chloe's voice dripped with confidence. The way she held Leo's gaze, prolonged, intimate, sent a cold knot into Eliza's stomach. Leo quickly joined them, placing a possessive hand on Eliza's waist as if to dispel any suspicion. The tension was palpable, but no one said a word. In the weeks that followed, Leo's schedule grew tighter than ever. He claimed he was finalizing a major contract for the company's expansion in Dubai, an opportunity that, if successful, could catapult Solace Global to stratospheric growth. But the hushed phone calls, the late-night texts, and the hurried departures at all hours left Eliza reeling. One night, Eliza woke up at 2 a.m. and found Leo's side of the bed empty. She found him in his study, the door slightly ajar, whispering into his phone in a low, urgent tone. Before she could speak, she heard him say, "I can't talk right now. She's awake." He ended the call abruptly. When she confronted him, he insisted it was a complicated international deal that required delicate timing. His expression was the picture of contrite sincerity. Yet she couldn't ignore the flimsy explanations. The next morning, she discovered a second smartphone in his briefcase while retrieving a file. The device, locked with a password, had a golden case and the initial CV etched on the inside. Stunned, she silently returned it to the briefcase without a word. That moment sealed her suspicions. Eliza decided that if Leo wouldn't be honest, she would find the truth herself. Desperate for someone to confide in, Eliza reached out to her closest friend and personal assistant, Paige Sanchez, who had worked with the Solis family for 3 years. Loyal and perceptive, Paige had often noticed the unspoken tensions simmering beneath the surface. Over coffee in Eliza's private lounge, she listened with concern as Eliza recounted the strange phone calls and the mysterious second phone. Paige shared her own observations. She had seen Chloe visit Leo's private office several times after hours, always leaving with an intimate familiarity, her coat draped over her arm, her hair slightly disheveled. The staff suspected something but kept quiet. After all, Leo Solis wasn't simply an employer. He was a titan. "Do you have any proof?" Paige asked softly. "A hunch alone won't do if he denies everything." Eliza nodded, a shaky breath escaping her. "I need someone skilled, a private investigator, who can gather concrete evidence. I'm not proud of resorting to this, but I have to know." Paige handed her a card. "I've heard rumors about a discreet private investigator named Adam Jones. He specializes in high-profile cases, but be warned. Once you open this door, there's no turning back." Eliza took the card and stared at it, steeling herself. The final evidence. Adam Jones, a former intelligence officer, took the case with his characteristic professional calm. He met Eliza at a dimly lit cafe, far from the Solis Tower, and listened as she explained the suspicious activities surrounding Leo and Chloe Vega. He assured her of his discretion. "He won't know about me until I have something substantial," he said. A few days later, Jones discreetly installed tracking software in Leo's official company car. He monitored his publicly available flight logs and placed an operative near the Solis Tower to observe after-hours activities. He also contacted an old friend in the Solis IT department, discreetly requesting email correspondence records between Leo and Chloe. True to his word, Jones delivered weekly updates. "Mr. Solis and Ms. Vega left the office at 10:42 p.m. on Wednesday," one message read, arriving at La Brisa Hotel 15 minutes later. She departed the hotel alone at 1:30 a.m. The next day, Jones provided photos. Chloe exiting Leo's sleek black SUV, her hair and makeup slightly disheveled, a look of exhilaration in her eyes. Each photograph was a stab to Eliza's heart. This wasn't just a lapse. It was a brazen, ongoing affair. Still, she waited. She needed the perfect moment to act. As Jones gathered evidence, Eliza's days grew more and more agonizing. She played the part of the devoted wife in public, smiling at boring power lunches, organizing charity auctions, and politely greeting dignitaries at Solis events. But behind the scenes, she was crumbling. Every time Leo kissed her on the cheek, she wondered if he still smelled of Chloe's perfume. Eliza's only solace was the support of Paige and a small circle of friends who sensed her pain. Victoria Sterling, an influential philanthropist and longtime mentor, approached her during a fundraiser. "You look tired, my dear," Victoria observed softly. "Remember, even queens need to rest." Eliza forced a smile, aware that Victoria saw more than she let on. Tormented by heartbreak and fury, Eliza wrestled with how to confront Leo. A part of her wanted to preserve the marriage, or at least save the illusions built around it. But with every new piece of evidence Jones provided, a dinner reservation under fake names, a secret flight to a conference in Singapore, it became clear that Leo was far from being repentant. The tension infiltrated their private conversations. Leo grew defensive about routine questions. Eliza found herself holding back sarcastic comments whenever he claimed to be busy at the office. One evening, Eliza mustered the courage to address the growing chasm. Leo was in his study, engrossed in what he claimed was an urgent contract with a Dubai investor. The air felt stale, so thick with secrets and fear that Eliza had to remind herself to breathe. "I want to talk," she declared, her voice unexpectedly calm. "We haven't had a conversation in weeks." Leo looked up, tired lines etching his face. "I know," he sighed. "I'm sorry, Eliza. The expansion is just taking everything out of me." She stepped closer, watching him intently. "Is there anything else? Anything you're not telling me?" He avoided her gaze, shuffling papers. "It's just work. You know me. I want to make sure we're set for life." She resisted the temptation to dump the incriminating photos on his desk. She longed to hurl accusations, demanding he name Chloe outright. But a small part of her held out hope for an honest confession. When none came, she simply nodded, feigning acceptance. She felt that if she moved too soon, he would deny everything and hide it more deeply. Patience, she told herself. Jones was close to uncovering more. When the confrontation came, it would be on her own terms. Several days later, a text from Jones arrived at dawn. "You'll want to see this. It's conclusive." Eliza's stomach clenched. At noon, she met him at a discreet location, a storage unit he used for private client meetings. There, under the flickering fluorescent light, Jones showed her the final nail in the coffin. Security camera footage from the 48th floor of the Solace Tower, recorded after midnight. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. Leo and Chloe stepping out of a private elevator, entangled in each other's arms, disappearing into the executive suite. They emerged 2 hours later, Chloe adjusting her blouse, Leo smoothing his hair. Jones had also uncovered an email chain between the two, referencing after-hours strategy sessions in a tone that was far from professional. Eliza felt a mix of devastation and grim satisfaction. There could be no more excuses, no more illusions. The magnitude of Leo's betrayal was undeniable. "I have to confront him," she whispered, holding back tears. Jones nodded. "It's a solid case, enough to bring before the Solus Global Board, if you choose." Eliza inhaled sharply, a spark of determination igniting in her eyes. "He has disrespected me in our home, in his place of work, everywhere. I'll bring it to light, where it will hurt him the most, at the Solace Tower." Eliza was done playing the quiet, unassuming wife. The public unveiling. In the days that followed, Eliza meticulously orchestrated a plan to expose Leo's affair with Chloe. Not just to him, but in front of Solus Global's key stakeholders. A major corporate inauguration was scheduled, a dazzling event where Leo would announce a new sustainable energy initiative. Top investors, board members, and senior executives, including Chloe, were all set to attend. Eliza contacted Victoria Sterling, who knew many of the board members personally. In a low voice, Eliza hinted that something monumental would occur at the event. Victoria, though visibly concerned, agreed to help ensure the right audience was present. Paige, for her part, coordinated with the PR department and made sure Eliza was allotted a few minutes on stage under the guise of discussing new philanthropic partnerships. Eliza rehearsed her speech meticulously, deciding exactly how and when to deploy Jones's footage. She wanted no confusion, no room for Leo or Chloe to manipulate the narrative. Every detail was calculated. Eliza's heart pounded with fear and adrenaline, but she held firm. If her husband thought he could flaunt his betrayal in the halls of power, she would bring down the walls around him in those same halls. The night of the grand inauguration arrived, and the Solis Tower was transformed into a spectacle of modern glamour. Attendees walked a red carpet into the sleek lobby, ushered by uniformed ushers to the 50th floor ballroom. Chandeliers glittered like constellations, and champagne flowed freely as jazz music played in the background. Eliza arrived in a stunning dark blue gown that accentuated her composure. She gave a calm smile to the press photographers, her emotions buried under an exterior of practiced elegance. Leo, in a sharp tuxedo, was at her side as they posed for photos. To outsiders, they looked like the ultimate power couple. Inside, Eliza prepared for the final blow. Across the ballroom, Chloe Vega circulated among the executives, her figure wrapped in a fiery red outfit that drew glances from every corner. She exuded confidence, unaware that the night's events would sabotage her carefully crafted aspirations. At 8 o'clock on the dot, the house lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated the stage. Leo took to the podium, giving a polished speech on Solis Global's foray into sustainable energy. Once he concluded, a polite round of applause filled the room. A stagehand announced, "And now we'd like to welcome Ms. Eliza Solis for a special address." Eliza walked onto the stage, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. The crowd's applause was warm. After all, she was admired as the philanthropic face of the Solis brand. She began her speech with the usual pleasantries, thanking donors and expressing excitement for the company's future. Then her tone changed. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of nerves and conviction, "I have always believed in the Solis Global vision, integrity, innovation, and leadership. Unfortunately, I have come across information that betrays those very values, and I can no longer remain silent." A wave of murmurs traveled through the audience. Chloe, standing near the front, squinted her eyes. Leo stiffened, a flash of alarm crossing his face. Eliza gave a signal to the AV technician, who Paige had discreetly briefed beforehand. The projector came to life behind her, displaying a series of incriminating emails between Leo and Chloe, discussing late-night meetings, romantic encounters, and personal details that left no room for an innocent interpretation. Then came the photos, them entering hotels, leaving private suites, traveling together in the middle of the night. Gasps were heard. Leo strode furiously toward the stage. Chloe looked stunned, her face drained of color. Eliza's heart pounded, but she held her ground. Leo climbed the stage steps, his voice low, but panicked. "Eliza, we need to talk in private. This is insane. Take this down now." Behind him, the audience was in an uproar, with phone cameras flashing, capturing every moment. Eliza refused to yield. "For too long, I have been humiliated in private. If the scandal is out, it should be the truth, not some rumor you invent," she said, her words amplified by the microphone. She turned to face him, her eyes blazing. "You broke our vows in your office, in our home, and with our money. Tonight, I am exposing your betrayal under the same lights you used to celebrate our marriage." Chloe's expression contorted from shock to rage. She tried to push her way through the crowd, but security guards, anticipating the commotion, blocked her path. The silence that settled in the room was electric. Everyone waited to see what Leo would do. He raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Eliza, please, I can explain." His voice cracked. No rehearsed speech or corporate manipulation could save him now. Eliza squared her shoulders. "There's nothing left to explain. You have dishonored me and this company." And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving him visibly shaken. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Reporters who had been invited for the official announcement scrambled forward, shouting for statements. Social media influencers live-streamed the spectacle, sparking a viral firestorm. Investors, including the formidable Victoria Sterling, exchanged horrified glances, some openly indignant, others retreating to corners to make frantic phone calls. Chloe pushed her way past security, tears of fury streaking her cheeks. "You set me up?" she hissed at Eliza, though the microphone still caught fragments of her words. "Leo and I. This was between us. How dare you do this in public?" Eliza met her gaze, feeling a strange surge of confidence. "You already did it in public," she said, her voice cold. "I'm simply letting the world see it." Nearby, Leo tried to intervene, but investors surrounded him, demanding answers. "What about our Dubai partnership?" one shouted. "Was that just a cover for your affair?" Leo's voice trembled. "I never intended to." "Listen, it's complicated. We can save the deal. This has nothing to do with business." But the damage was done. The illusions of trust and respect were shattered on the marble floor. In a matter of minutes, Leo's carefully curated image disintegrated, replaced by an irreparable scandal. Amidst the media frenzy, Eliza slipped out a side door, accompanied by Paige. She felt numb, a strange mix of triumph and pain swirling inside her. On the limousine ride back to their Solace penthouse, she looked out the window at the city lights, her mind replaying the expressions of shock from everyone at the event. She knew her actions were drastic, but she did not regret them. When they arrived, Paige tried to offer her words of comfort. "You did what you had to do. You were honest about his betrayal, even if it was brutal." Eliza's throat felt tight. She remembered the early days, the kind way Leo had courted her, the vows they exchanged by a moonlit lake in Italy. "I can't believe what he's become," she whispered. Tears threatened, but she held them back. She wouldn't allow herself to fall apart, at least not yet. Paige poured her a drink, and Eliza drank it with gratitude. She knew the war wasn't over. Leo would be coming home, and she had to decide what came next. For now, she allowed herself the solace of a silent penthouse, far from the glare and drama she had just unleashed. The new beginning. It was almost dawn when Leo finally returned. He looked like a ghost of his former self, his tie undone, his hair disheveled, and his eyes red with fatigue. The instant Eliza saw him, all her pent-up rage and pain flared. She stood in the foyer, her arms crossed. "Your phone hasn't stopped ringing," she said dryly. "Investors, the press, the board. It seems everyone wants to know what happened." Leo dropped his keys on a console, letting out a shaky sigh. "Eliza, let's talk this out calmly." "You want calm?" she snapped, her voice cracking. "I gave you calm all the days you lied to me, all the nights you slept with her." He stepped closer, desperation in his eyes. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to." "Don't say it." She held up her hand, tears stinging behind her eyelids. "I'm done with your apologies. The damage is done." For a moment, he looked genuinely remorseful, or perhaps just cornered. "Let's fix this. We can manage the board. I'll end things with Chloe. We can fix our marriage." She let out a humorless laugh. "You think I exposed you in front of the world to fix this marriage? No, Leo. This is the end." She turned and walked away, leaving him alone in the foyer with his guilt. The day after the catastrophic gala, the Solis Global Board of Directors met in an emergency session. Investor confidence had plummeted overnight. Stock prices plunged amid rumors of corporate instability and leadership irregularities. Victoria Sterling led the charge, demanding immediate accountability. Leo walked into the boardroom to a frigid reception. though he tried to defend himself, citing his personal indiscretion as separate from corporate governance. The board would not be appeased. "You used company resources for your affair," Victoria stated, referencing Jones's evidence. "Hotel suites charged to corporate cards, flights disguised as business trips. This is unethical and could be legally damaging." Several board members, outraged, proposed an immediate ousting of Leo as CEO. Another faction suggested a temporary leave while an internal investigation commenced. Leo, pale and humbled, tried to salvage his position. But the gravity of the scandal was undeniable. Meanwhile, Chloe Vega was nowhere to be found. She was rumored to have flown to Europe to escape the media glare. HR froze her accounts and launched its own investigations. In less than 24 hours, Leo's unstoppable empire was teetering on the edge, undone by the very arrogance that once built it. The scandal dominated news cycles. The hashtag "He Lies" trended on social media, and tabloids published conspiratorial timelines of the affair. Business channels speculated on how the fiasco might affect global markets, while gossip columns feasted on the personal drama. Paparazzi camped outside the soulless penthouse, hoping for a glimpse of Eliza or Leo. At first, Eliza stayed inside, stunned by the worldwide attention. Then she received a phone call from a well-known journalist, Meredith Brooks, requesting an exclusive interview. Eliza hesitated. She loathed public spectacle, but she realized that telling her story could be a strategic move to protect herself and perhaps reassert her identity beyond the scorned wife. When the day of the interview arrived, Eliza found herself in a serene television studio, with lights softly illuminating the set. Meredith, known for her fair but incisive style, asked probing questions about the affair, the corporate fallout, and Eliza's personal anguish. With composure, Eliza spoke candidly about her heartbreak, her reasons for exposing Leo publicly, and her hope for a more ethical corporate culture. The interview aired that night. It prompted an outpouring of support from viewers who admired her courage. However, the condemnation of Leo grew more fierce, fueling a scandal that was already ablaze. In the following weeks, Eliza took refuge at a smaller Solace family-owned property, a quiet lakeside villa outside the city. There, she tried to piece her life back together. Old photographs reminded her of how quickly everything had changed. Her wide-eyed excitement upon joining Solace Global, her wedding day with a beaming Leo, looking at her with what she believed was genuine adoration. Now, every memory felt tainted. Yet, amidst the heartbreak, she realized she still had her intellect, her network, and her resilience. Friends like Paige visited her often, delivering company updates and moral support. Victoria Sterling called her regularly, urging Eliza to stay strong amid the board's negotiations regarding Leo's fate. Sometimes, Eliza's phone would buzz with unknown numbers. She had grown cautious, suspecting they were journalists or even Chloe herself. But one night she answered hesitantly, only to hear a trembling female voice. "It's me, Chloe," the caller whispered, her tone almost apologetic. "I need to talk." Eliza's pulse quickened. A part of her wanted to hang up, but curiosity mixed with a desire for final closure. "Okay," she said softly. "What do you have to say?" Little did she know how her next move would change everything. The final reckoning, Eliza met with Chloe Vega at a discreet cafe on the outskirts of London. She arrived with cautious expectations, ready to fend off a diatribe or half-hearted justifications. However, Chloe looked uncharacteristically nervous, her hair in a simple ponytail, her makeup minimal. "I'm not here to fight," Chloe began softly, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "What happened is my fault too. I should have known better. But Leo made promises promises about my career, about a life with him, if I just proved my loyalty. Eliza remained silent, letting Chloe's words tumble out. She learned that their affair had started nearly a year ago, fueled by late nights and a mutual ambition. Chloe admitted she fell for Leo's visions of grandeur, believing he would eventually leave Eliza. "I realize how foolish I was," she said, her eyes moist with regret. Taking a sip of her tea, Eliza paused. She felt no sympathy for the woman who had helped dismantle her marriage, but she recognized Chloe's sincerity. "Why are you telling me this now?" she finally asked. Chloe handed her a thick envelope. Inside was more proof of Leo's shady corporate dealings, documents detailing dubious offshore accounts, bribery transactions, and questionable contracts. "I guess I learned my lesson," Chloe murmured, tears glinting. "He used me. I can't protect him anymore." Armed with Chloe's documents, Eliza returned to the city. A special board session was scheduled to determine Leo's fate. She decided to attend, not as a passive observer, but as a key voice in the struggle for the company's leadership. The boardroom was silent when she entered. At the head of the table sat Victoria Sterling, flanked by grim-faced directors. Leo, looking pale and defeated, occupied a seat opposite the door. He barely met Eliza's gaze. She spoke calmly, handing out copies of the documents. "This affair isn't just a personal betrayal," she announced. "Leo has risked the company's credibility by mixing personal indiscretions with corporate assets. The evidence here shows even deeper violations." As the board members perused the pages, exclamations spread throughout the table. Leo's face turned red with fury. "You're going to destroy everything I built," he hissed, glaring at Eliza. She met his gaze without flinching. "You destroyed it yourself. I am simply revealing what's hidden." Victoria rapped her pen against the table. "These documents confirm that we have grounds for the immediate removal of Leo Solis as CEO. The board can vote on the motion today." Eliza exhaled. The final confrontation was at hand. Despite Leo's attempts to justify his actions, claiming the offshore accounts were for tax efficiency and the bribery payments were to fend off frivolous lawsuits, the board was unimpressed. Even the members who were once loyal to him realized the risk of backing a leader who had publicly disgraced the company and who might face legal repercussions. The vote was swift. A unanimous removal of Leo Solis from the CEO position. An interim CEO was appointed to stabilize the firm and reassure investors. Victoria Sterling leaned back in her chair, a mix of relief and pain on her face. The Solis name, once synonymous with unstoppable success, was now emblematic of scandal. Leo walked out of the boardroom, refusing to look at Eliza. As he passed, she could feel the bitterness radiating from him, a man accustomed to total control, suddenly cast aside. In the hallway, Paige silently approached Eliza. "Are you okay?" Eliza wiped a single tear. "I will be," she whispered, catching a glimpse through the glass doors as Leo disappeared from the building, a lost empire in his wake. Redefining success. Genevieve woke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the curtains of her lakeside villa. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the tranquil sound of water lapping against the shore. She felt lighter than she had in years, no dread in her stomach, no frantic need to check her phone for hidden truths. The divorce papers had been signed, the final decisions made, and she was, at last, unequivocally free. Putting on a plush robe, she padded into the spacious living room and stopped at the panoramic windows. Overlooking the lake, the mist clung to the water's surface, floating like ghosts in the morning light. Once such a peaceful scene would have felt eerily still to her, a mocking contrast to her chaotic marriage. Today, however, the silence was a gift. It cradled her in the promise of new beginnings, a clean slate she had never dared to imagine. Her mind wandered over the past months. The memories of Leo still fluttered at the edges of her consciousness, their happy early days, the quiet moments of genuine warmth. But each memory felt strangely distant now, like flashes of a life she had read about rather than lived. The pain was softer. She had no illusions of rewriting the past. The betrayal had changed her irreversibly. Yet she was determined not to let that betrayal define the rest of her life. A soft knock on the door broke her reverie. Paige, now the operations manager for the newly formed Marshall Sterling Foundation, entered with a bright smile and a folder in hand. "The mentorship program is taking off," she announced excitedly, flipping through pages of notes. "We've had an overwhelming response from young women wanting to start their own businesses. Funding applications are at an all-time high." Genevieve couldn't help but smile. She remembered the countless nights she had spent drafting the foundation's mission statement, channeling her pain into something bigger than herself. Each success story, each woman who found her voice and launched her dream, felt like a personal victory. It was proof that light could break through even the darkest shadows. Over a breakfast of fresh fruit and warm pastries, Paige shared updates on the Foundation's upcoming gala. Eliza would be the keynote speaker, her first major public appearance since the divorce was finalized. The prospect both thrilled and unnerved her, but she saw it as an opportunity to reclaim the narrative, no longer as a scorned wife, but as a leader, championing female empowerment and ethical leadership. After Paige left, Eliza took a moment to reflect on all that had changed. The platform, once monopolized by Leo's ambition, had now been repurposed into her own vehicle for positive impact. She had discovered a new sense of identity by fostering innovation and integrity among young entrepreneurs, particularly women who might otherwise be overlooked or underestimated. That afternoon, she strolled along the lakeshore, letting the stones crunch under her sandals. Her thoughts drifted from personal gratitude to larger ambitions for the foundation. She imagined expanding internationally, partnering with like-minded organizations, perhaps even initiating policy discussions that would safeguard against corporate abuses of power. She also considered writing a book, part memoir, part business manifesto, detailing her journey from wide-eyed intern to high-profile wife to empowered founder. It was a daunting idea, but one that excited her. As the sun set, she stopped to skip a stone across the water. Each gentle ripple reminded her of how a single action could send ripples across an entire surface. Her choice to expose the truth about her marriage had been painful and dramatic, but ultimately necessary. And those ripples had paved the way for a future filled with authenticity instead of secrecy. When she finally returned to the villa, the sun was warm on her face, and a quiet confidence settled in her heart. Eliza knew there would be challenges ahead, skeptics, perhaps new betrayals, and the lingering echoes of her past. But she also knew she possessed the strength to face them. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just free from Leo's shadow. She was free to chart her own path. She was Eliza Marshall, resilient, determined, and alive with possibility. And for the first time in a very long time, her future felt as expansive and promising as the shimmering lake that stretched out before her. This compelling story of Eliza Marshall and Leo Solis reveals the dark consequences of unchecked ambition and deceit. What began as a fairy tale romance soon unraveled into heartbreak when secrets, hushed phone calls, and clandestine meetings came to light. The betrayal not only shattered Eliza's innocence, but also threatened the very foundations of Solis Global. Yet, from the ruins of her marriage, she found a renewed purpose, leveraging her pain to champion ethical leadership and empower women forging their own paths in business. Eliza's journey reminds us that resilience often emerges from our darkest hours. No matter how public or painful the downfall, we can all rise again, stronger, wiser, and with a clearer vision for the future. What do you think was the most profound realization Eliza had during her journey? If you enjoyed this story, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.